Hello and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It is me, Richard, and as you can see, I have a new guest with me today, and this is part of a new feature that we are going to bring to you on Villa Park podcast called Talking Tactics. And I want to introduce you to football data analyst and all-round expert Gareth, who is going to talk us through how we beat Man United. What did Emery do? And yes, Gareth, you are the man to talk us through this. Welcome to the show.
Thanks,
And
Rich.
just tell us a little bit about what you do, mate.
Yes, I'm a football data analyst. I do a lot of sort of consultancy work for some clubs around player recruitment, opposition work. So a lot of private sort of work, but also my full time is at the Canadian Premier League as their data analyst, helping the teams out. Again, recruitment stuff and everything. So yeah, really enjoyable.
Fantastic. And you happen to be an Aston Villa fan.
I do.
Yes, and it's interesting now that we have a manager who is very big on tactical analysis, tactical changes in game, and we spoke earlier this week about how we can bring some of that, some of those nuances and some of those tweaks and things that happen during the game to our viewers and make it, explain it a little bit more. So I know you're going to take it away. I know we saw some obvious changes to tactical to how Villa set up during the game against Man United, which ultimately proved really effective. So take it away, mate.
I think
I've got the screen up. Here you go.
Yeah, like I say, people will see. I enjoy interacting with people on Twitter and everything else about various tactical shapes and everything else, and we have a lot of debate around certain sort of things. So I just wanted to run through just a few things really that I noticed about Unai Emery. Now, let's not pay attention to the formations and the positions on the left-hand side here. It's just for sort of viewing purposes really. So Villa set up in a 4-2-2-2 formation. And it's very unorthodox sort of shape. Not a great sort of amount of managers use it. Hassan Huttle's used it a couple of times, at Southampton. But apart from that, sort of, it's not a greatly well-known formation. And it was a big tweak from Emery, really, compared to the 4-3-3, the 4-3-2-1 that we've seen that Steven Gerrard used in the previous regime. So I just wanted to run through this briefly.
Perfect.
Now, United in a 4-2-3-1. Van der Beek probably a little bit of and Garnacho probably a sort of shock selections in a matter of respects, but I think that's up to them. So the 4-2-2-2 is interesting. Now, obviously, I think Emery wanted to make use of Buendia and Ramsey in these sort of advanced midfield positions. Now, although they weren't sort of real deep in the final third a lot of the time, it was a key that this was an area where they wanted to get these two on the ball. Now, basically, this was in possession. So out of possession, we're looking more of a 4-4-2.
Yeah.
Which is basically, it's an orthodox shape. Now, a lot of people might say Jacob Ramsey is not an orthodox winger. Emi Buendia is not an orthodox winger. But this allowed these players to move into these sorts of positions. Especially, we had a lot of cover back here.
Yeah.
So you've got that defensive stability. Excuse me. You've got this defensive stability already behind, where you've got players, the two midfielders in Luiz and Dendoncker spread wide. You've got enough scope, especially seeing as Cash was not as advanced as we've seen him before. So you've got more of this sort of shape. Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect.
So we saw a double pivot in midfield, which again allowed that sort of, you're covered in most areas there. You've got Cash you can drop in, but you've also got Ramsey and the likes who can join in these sorts of areas and get on the ball. You've also got Luiz sort of available as a passing option. So we can go here, we can go here. There's loads of passing options here. And because we were sort of in a mid-block, really, it allowed that sort of defensive stability for Buendia and Ramsey to also join players in the box. But this is important, Buendia, in these sorts of areas.
Perfect. And how important was it to have that physical presence of say a Leander Dendoncker in there to break up play and win those second balls to then give to our ball players and our ball carriers?
Yeah, I think it was massively important. I mean, let's be honest. Apart from we haven't really got a proper midfield destroyer apart from Marv, who's obviously not going to really sort of doesn't look like he's going to get a decent run of games, but that's yet to be seen, obviously. But yeah, massively important. I think Louise is always better in a two. I think I think on his own in this position where we've seen him sort of more in the quarterback position, he's a great passer of the ball, but a midfield destroyer, probably not. And I think his availability to be on the ball, knowing he's got Dendonka behind him, just to cover off these areas was massively important. And again, quite a big switch considering we haven't seen sort of Dendonka, have a run of games yet.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks for that. And also, obviously, we've talked. We this famous XG gets spoken about quite a lot, and it was interesting because under Steven Gerrard, we had one or two games where we had quite a high XG, whereas with regards to this game, 0.57 XG. Granted, one of them was a set piece, but it was interesting to see how much lower it was in terms of previous games. But does that indicate that we were much more clinical with our finishing?
Oh, 100%. 6 shots, 4 on target. What's not to like? I mean, 0.57 XG is obviously, very, very low, but in scoring the 3 goals from that, it's a massive swing considering what we have seen before. Even though we weren't taking a vast amount of shots before, we weren't even being clinical with them, and so to see just that amount of shots and the XG was, I was quite surprised. I didn't think it would be above the ones, but I did think it would be a bit higher than that. So yeah, to score the 3 goals from that, is massively important and another big switch, I think.
And is that something that you will expect from Emery moving forward? Like maybe a less chance creation in terms of XG, but putting us into better positions or expecting the players to be more clinical or as clinical as they were against United?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's quite difficult to say. I think that's going to go on a sort of per game basis. Who your opponents are, home and away, is obviously a big thing. And the crowd were behind them at Villa Park. It was the first game for the new manager, and I think that's sort of like a big sort of push up your backside, if you like, to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he's not known for his massive sort of attacking flair of football, but to be more clinical, I think is the key, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also looking at this again is Man United at 0.51. That shows how much we kept them at arm's length and we were so solid in terms of our defensive shape.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially with the own goal, I think Martinez would have saved it. I don't think that would have been a goal. It took a cruel deflection. So, in eventuality, I think Manchester United, I mean, they had 8 shots as well with only 3 on target. So their XG, from 8 shots is not high at all. But I think, I mean, looking at that, would we have had a 3-0 game? And any other day, maybe Ronaldo heads that cross in. I don't know. But apart from the own goal, we're looking at a 3-0 game.
Yeah, 100%. And another couple of interesting slides we'll go through, Gareth, just to finish off this segment is the passing combinations, and you can see heavily there Dini and Buendia linking up really, really well, and Cash and Bailey having quite a bit of influence as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think, but also quite importantly, this obviously shows, what we can see is basically the 4-4-2. We can clearly see sort of like we can clearly see what I've said before, that Cash was not as advanced. Konsa is a little bit more advanced. It means obviously these are average positions, so take it with a pinch of salt. But yeah, we can clearly see that when Dia linking to Dina and Cash with Ramsey, there was a little sort of triangle of support with the 2 centre backs, supporting the other 2 as well. And we've often seen the highest passing combination is in fact Martinez to Mings throughout the season. That is the most highest passing combination. So again, we've seen that again. I think that might change. I think we might sort of see more advanced switches, or we may see when Kamara comes back into the side, they might play straight into Kamara and then out through the wings. It's possible they might do it that way. But this is quite a common theme. Martinez to Mings, Martinez to Konsa. for the first phase of the build-up is not common. It's usually is always Martinez and Mings. So I think Emery has to be careful that's not sussed out, and we don't start seeing a lot of opposition teams pressing Mings, and then we haven't got a way out. So that does need to be sort of, you know, addressed, I think.
Sure. And one thing we did see a little bit of, and what created quite of our chances, was Martinez playing those sort of more expansive balls out to Cash and Digne. So hopefully we see a little bit more of that.
I think we should see more of that.
Yeah, good. And then finally, I like this one because I like the way it shows the player influence. And I think previously when I've looked at your stats on this, mate, and looked at under Gerrard, it always seemed to be like Mings, Konsa, and Louise just had the biggest influence in terms of like how sort of big the font was of them. And what's interesting here is how kind of more spread it is, and that's obviously got to be better because you're attacking from different areas.
Yeah, I mean, like all average position graphics and that, we should always take that with a pinch of salt. There's a lot of fluidity in it, but that was inspired by an app by StatZone, which is a really good app, especially for sort of a lot of passing combinations and a lot of stats like that. And that graphic is based on sort of player sequence passing involvement. So the more sequences they are involved in, the bigger the text, etc., etc. So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see that Mings and Martinez are a little bit sort of still the same sorts of size. Douglas Luiz, obviously, if anyone's seen the graphics on the previous games, go and check these out because Douglas Luiz is usually a bigger name.
Yeah.
So, you know, to see that bypassed a little bit more and to see these two, Buendia and Ramsey, in the two advanced central midfield positions, a little bit more involved than what we probably would normally see them is quite interesting, I think.
Yeah, excellent. And hopefully a sign of things to come. Just in general, though, how, you know, obviously we've looked at formations, we've looked at kind of the influence in the XG. Just in concluding, what do you think were the key things for Emery in sort of winning that game, and how do you think that can carry on for Villa in the future games?
Yeah, I do think the press was a lot more organised. It looked better from the off. You know, it's literally straight from the kickoff. We can see, even with the ball, Bailey sort of taking the fight to Man United sort of almost straight away. But out of possession is a massive thing for football teams, and I think they were just better out of possession. They looked to win the ball back in the right areas. They didn't look to sort of press from Mings and Konsa and do silly things and just drag. We didn't see Mings getting out of position at all. You know, he was sort of calm in the way that he was set up. And yeah, I think it was just overall just better organised. Out of possession, I noticed a lot more as well. But the transitions in the formation from out of possession to then being in possession was really good. You know, you could see the switch of plays straight away. They were pushing higher and it was organised. It just looked, just overall better organised, both in and out of possession, I think.
Perfect. Well, Gareth, that was fantastic. Thank you for breaking that down. And if you like what you see, guys, please leave a like on this video. Please subscribe to the channel. We've over 600 now, which is fantastic. We're on the road to 1,000. Leave your comments as well, how you think this video has gone. What did you notice about the tactics that that Emery employed, and how do you think that's going to affect us for this season? Gareth, thank you so much. Where can people find you on social media?
Find me on Twitter. Yeah, at that Karate JC. Always up for a chat and a little bit of sort of Villa content and that. So yeah, you can find me there.
Brilliant. Well, as always, thank you so much, and thanks everyone for tuning in. And as always, remember, we all follow the Villa. Thanks everyone. Bye bye.